Welcome to the Professional Troublemaker podcast. This is a place where we help you cultivate the courage, authenticity, and audacity you need to use your voice, take up space, and live a life that is so bold, even your wildest dreams say goals. I'm your host, Luvvie Ajayi Jones, New York Times bestselling author, sought-after speaker, and side-eye sorceress, bringing you thought-provoking conversations with amazing people who have taken action, done scary things, and rocked the boats to an audacious life. Like the late, great John Lewis said, these are the kind of people who are never, ever afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. Before we jump into today's interview, know that this podcast is named after my second book, Professional Troublemaker, The Fear Fighter Manual, which hits bookstores' shelves on March 2nd, 2021. With this book, and really with everything that I do, it's because I am on a mission to help 1 million people live audaciously. To do that, they must fight their fear. So think of it, 1 million people who are out there standing on the edge of something great and need that little push of encouragement, that push to be the domino, to say the hard thing, to have the hard conversation, to kick their fear to the curb and step into the life they've been dreaming of. And that is what writing this book has done for me, and what it's already done for those who've had the chance to read it early. It's empowered people to say yes to things they were previously saying no to. It's empowered people to have tough conversations they weren't gonna have before. People have asked for raises and promotions and gotten them after reading this book and finding the courage to speak up. The domino effect of what has been happening when a few people have decided not to live in the realm of fear has been amazing. So think of what could happen if 1 million people stopped letting fear be the first factor in their decision making. An audacious mission like this one that I have can't happen without you. So I need your help to get this book in the hands of people who need it. Buy a copy of Professional Troublemaker for yourself or as a gift for your friend who needs to start living big. I know it will change your life like it's changed mine. And I know it will change the lives of 1 million people who can create a domino effect that won't be stopped. Pre-order Professional Troublemaker in hardcover or audiobook now at professionaltroublemakerbook.com or wherever you want to buy your books. On today's episode of Professional Troublemaker, I am talking to someone who is the literal walking definition of what a professional troublemaker is. She's a truth teller, a disruptor, a trailblazer, and a change agent. Today, I'm talking to my friend, Tarana Burke. For more than 25 years, Tarana has worked at the intersection of sexual violence and racial justice. Fueled by commitments to interrupt sexual violence and other systemic inequalities disproportionately impacting marginalized people, particularly Black women and girls, Tarana has created and led various campaigns focused on increasing access to resources and support for impacted communities, including the Me Too movement, which to date has galvanized millions of survivors and allies around the world. This conversation is the one that I needed to be having during Fear Fighter February. We talk about Tarana growing up and all the paths she walked down to end up on the one she's on right now. The pain of being misunderstood when you're trying to make the world a better place for everyone, and how she's learned to lean into vulnerability more as she continues to do her work. You're gonna love this one, so let's get into it. Yo, so I always start by asking people like, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
You know what's so funny? My bonus baby asked me that the other day. And I said, when I was very little, I wanted to be a lawyer because I got a Caribbean granddaddy who said, that's what you pick one, doctor, lawyer, you got an accountant, something. So I wanted to be a lawyer. And, he said I talked a lot and I was good at convincing people. And so I used to say that all the time. And then I switched to, I want to be a track star because I ran track from like 6 years old. So I just
really?
Oh yeah, I knew I was going to the Olympics. What? When FloJo hit the world, I was like, this is all I want to be. This is
what?
Yeah.
And so you started running track at 6?
I started running track at 6. I ran all through middle school, high school. I was the captain of my team my senior year in high school. I ran my freshman year in college, and I was like, well, that's the end of that.
Whoa, I never knew this.
Yeah, track is my sport. Yeah. So I just knew I was going to be a track star, and then I was going to retire from that and be a coach. That's the trajectory. But I gave that up. And then I wanted to be a teacher. And then I gave up track as going to the Olympics around 15, because when I was about 14 or 15, I decided I wanted to be an organizer.
Really?
Yeah, I knew really early. But after my first,
oh my God.
The first thing I ever organized around was the Central Park 5 in New York.
So wait, let's drill into that. I love this journey from track to teacher to organizer.
Yeah.
From lawyer. So
now I'm a little bit of all of it.
Right. Exactly. You're doing all of it in some ways, because you're also running around the world. But so where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Bronx, New York, all day. People call me a Bronx nationalist, BX all day.
All day. Okay. And what were you like when you were growing up, besides outspoken? What was Little Tarana like?
What was Little Tarana like? I mean, probably not dissimilar than Big Tarana. I like to laugh. I love being around my family. I loved, I talk a lot. I think if you were to query my family, that would be the first thing they would say. It's around Little Tarana didn't shut up. I was the little kid who was always in grown people's conversations.
And they're like, stop minding grown folks.
Exactly. Business. Nobody's talking to you. Go in the room, No, mommy, that's not what happened. Remember? The lady said, and my mother would be like, I did not ask you.
Nobody asked you nothing. But see, the people who talked a lot when they were little now become speakers and they get paid for it.
Exactly. I'm like, it was a thing. I didn't know. Yeah, I was definitely that way. Love school too. Love to read.
So school. Okay. So you was popular. You had your friends. You were just chilling.
Yeah.
So how old were you when Central Park 5 happened? And what really made you pause and say, I need to focus around this?
So I was, I think, 15. It might have been the summer before I turned 15, or I was 15. Because that's 90, I think. Anyway, somewhere in there. And I had joined this organization called the 21st Century Youth Leadership Movement. Right? Because I grew up in a very black family. My mom was very active in the 70s around, Black liberation. My grandfather was a Gardier. My uncles and everybody, I always describe it as we were kind of Black that had birthday cakes on Malcolm X and Martin Luther King's birthday.
Yes. Yes. Y'all was blackity black.
I took Swahili lessons in daycare when I was little. We was very head wraps and red, black, and green. And so I had that kind of grounding around Blackness, but I loved it so much, but I never had a way to utilize it, right? I just had information. I had started learning about grassroots organizing and about being able to change your community. And in that summer, we came home and the Central Park 5 had exploded. The story had exploded everywhere. And one of the brothers, Yusef from the Central Park 5, had been dating a girl in our program. So it was, it was Manhattan. They was from Upper Manhattan, the Bronx. It's all very close. Right. And so Yusef was dating this girl who went to high school. That's who was in our program. And so it made it very much we know this dude. We've seen him around, and we felt more invested. And so we organized a rally and a protest and a press conference, these little 14, 15, 16-year-old teenage kids in New York. But our point was, you can't criminalize us. That was our motto, we won't let you criminalize us. And I just felt so powerful. I don't know if there's another way to put it, but really through that process, right? Because, the one thing I loved about 21st Century was that the adults in the program would constantly tell us, you have power now. Right? Yes. You're not, we're developing you as leaders, but it's because you have the ability to be a leader already. It's not, we're just helping to touch. They weren't if you keep in this program, one day you will. They're nah, right now. And you can do something right now. And so we did. And from that moment on, I was I get to stand up and talk in front of people and say what I want and give people I'm doing this. I'm doing this.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is incredible that you had such an early exposure to activism in such a real way.
Yeah, it feels like a blessing to know. Like I went to college. No, I tried teaching for a semester as a major, and I was like, I don't want to do this. And so I switched to political science because it was the closest to that kind of world. But I was a professional troublemaker from deep. From deep.
And usually professional troublemakers are professional troublemakers from childhood.
Yeah.
So it just, and the best times and the best people who are able to harness that power are the ones who were never convinced not to.
Yeah.
A lot of us started off as professional troublemakers and somebody convinced us not to be that person. Right. So when we are told, you have permission to make this good trouble.
Yeah. My mother used to say, you have to be respectful of adults, but they have to be respectful of you. Yes. Right. And so if something happened in school or whatever, I would say to my mommy, this is what happened. That I was, I'm a mama's girl, if you will. Because I remember being probably in my late 20s, and I had a boss, woman I was working with who was just awful to me all the time. And I wanted to go off on her so bad, but I was also trained to be respectful. I called my mother. I was like, Mommy, can you talk to this lady because she's your age and I don't want to curse her out? And my mother, sure enough, was like, I'm going to talk to her this time, Tarana, but you can't keep calling me. You're a grown up.
You're like, but I still need you to talk to her.
Right. In case I go up on this woman. But yeah, my mom gave me a lot. I always say the greatest gift my mother ever gave me was a yes. We didn't have a lot of money, and I don't have that, like, a lot of people, we grew up without a lot of money. My mother worked every day God gave us. We did okay, but she was frugal, of course. But when opportunities came, she said yes. 21st century was this group of people from Alabama. I was like, Mommy, can I go to a trip to DC to learn to be a leader? and she said, well, how much is it gonna cost? I was like, I don't know, it was like $25. She was like, okay.
Oh, wow. The greatest gift is a yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So when you went to college, where'd you go?
I started at Alabama State University in Montgomery, Alabama. And then because our cousins are wild, I had to transfer to Auburn University. I finished at Auburn University, also in Montgomery, the Montgomery campus, but I went to school in Alabama. And I mostly claim Alabama State because that's where I claim them both, but I spent the most time at State. There was a whole bunch of controversy and a bunch of students had to transfer over to Auburn so that we can get to college. But yeah.
Wow. So you got your degree in political science?
In public administration and political science, yeah.
So at that point, what did you want to do and be next? Like, where did you go after you got this degree?
Oh, I was clear. By the time we got to the end of college, I was ready to go into the world. I was organizing all through college. We had, the reason why I was in Alabama was because of 21st Century. The organization that I was a part of was based there. And so, I barely, by the hair of my chin, got through college because I was ready to go. and they about hated me on my college campus because I was just like, oh my gosh. We were all at Auburn, not at Alabama State, but at Auburn. Yeah. You had a bunch of Black kids come over there and we looking around like, what is this? This ain't gonna stand. And they hadn't been used to Black kids pushing back. It was the smaller campus of this huge college, and it was more commuter friendly. And we were on campus like, nah, this is a HBCU now. You ain't know.
Let them know.
Let them know, So we were, and I was leading all these protests, and it was just a lot of bias happening on campus. So I got my way up out of Auburn, but I went right to Selma to work for 21st Century. So I knew that's what I was going to do. Was going to go into that work. Nonprofit. I initially wanted to actually go work for a foundation. Yeah. Because I was on the board of 2LC, that's what we call 21st Century, as I was a youth board member, and I saw the struggle for like raising money for these grassroots organizations. And I thought, I want to go work for one of these foundations so they can have a real voice in there who knows what's going on. But my time was better. I'm glad I did. I stayed in Selma and I went to work there raising money for the organization instead of, going to work for a Ford Foundation or something like that. Mm-hmm. And still organizing, right? We were running the 21st Century the program, the leadership program. We was organizing around police brutality. We were organizing to get the first Black mayor into office in Selma. It was quite an active time.
You came out the gate. It's funny. People see Tarana Burke today and don't understand how you basically lived like 4 different lives before Me Too got on the map.
Oh, absolutely.
They do not understand that you used to have a fashion blog.
Yeah. Luvvie. I did.
Yes, we taking it there.
Yeah, that feels like a whole other life.
Yes.
I had the fashion blog, honestly, because the life of an organizer, activist, movement in that world, we are obviously fighting against things like capitalism and consumerism. And so, but we live in America, and we live in this country where we're surrounded by it, engulfed by it. And instead of like examining those systems and thinking about how we dismantle them, strategically, I think a lot of what we got when I was young, we were young and hungry and like, 20-something-year-olds, when they get information, we're like, I know everything now. And so instead, it was just an indictment of us as individuals for wanting to like nice things. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It was just,
yes.
And it was like, I grew up socialized to want nice things and not being able to get them. And now that I have the opportunity to get them, you're condemning me as a human being because I want a pair of those leather boots, And so I kept that part of me. I had been reading Vogue magazine since I was like 12, 13 years old. Like, had a subscription. That was my gift one year for my birthday, because my mother was like, we ain't got a lot of money, so what do you want? And I was like, can you buy me this $5 magazine? And so that was like my secret. It was like my little thing I didn't tell my activist friends, that I loved fashion and stuff. And then I was turning 40. I was in my late 30s, getting ready to turn 40. And I'm like, but I love to dress. I like nice things. So I created this blog that was about how to dress nice, enjoy your nice things and not spend a lot of money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a whole other
I remember one of the outfits you posted that I was like, you better, because the blog is called She Slays.
Yeah.
Where you wore this overcoat and these fire knee boots.
Oh, I know.
And these glasses, and you were standing in the street.
Yeah, the green.
I was like, yo, this fire outfit, like, it was so bomb. But it was so cool because, again, when people think about activists and activism, they don't give people room to like nice things. They think if you're an activist, you're also so anti-capitalist that you're like, I'm just going to live in this one shirt that I have.
Exactly.
That ain't it.
And I have some friends who have capsules, they have like 5 pair of pants, 5 shirts, And I actually applaud that, right? I think that we do have to have our eye on the global climate and the crisis around how our consumerism is affecting literally the world that we live in. And I think a lot of the fashion brands and stuff are starting to pay attention to that more. So a lot of the magazines are starting to pay attention to that more. And then we have to contend with the fact that this is the world that we live in. And I know so many folks who are movement people who are like, I didn't want to say nothing, but you see these new Gucci shoes I got. I'm not.
You're like, are you going to get it?
I'm not going to put them on the gram, but girl, you see these, and I'm like, yeah, we are. I have multitudes.
Multitudes. We're not saints in this world.
Not at all.
We pick causes that we want to speak up about, but that does not mean we are also not a part of a larger system that we will play into sometimes.
Absolutely. And I struggle with it. And I think we have to continue to struggle with it and not just be like, oh, well, I don't care, whatever carbon footprint you can't go to the other extreme. I definitely struggle with it and try to find a balance, but I do like nice things.
Can't help it. Okay. Yeah. It is what it is. Like,
absolutely.
It is what it is. So when I'm like trying to figure out how to even get into how Me Too became. So first of all, let's talk about Me Too outside of the phenomenon Me Too.
Yes.
What people do not realize as they talk about you are the founder of the movement, they're thinking about the hashtag.
Yeah.
You are considered the founder because you actually had an organization of this name before social media caught on.
Yeah.
Walk me into what made you start Me Too, not the hashtag.
No, I did not start the hashtag. And I think people should absolutely understand that's not, it's so funny. Not only did I not start the hashtag, I found, I'm writing my memoir right now, and I found an exchange on social media between a friend and I the day that Me Too went viral, where she was like, hey, I'm seeing Me Too, congratulations, da da da. And I was like, hey, you know what? I don't know who started that. This was literally like hours after it went viral, or it was gearing to go viral. I was like, I'm not sure who started that, but I didn't. And I, let's try to contain it. I had no idea where it was going, right? Because I'm concerned about making something like that a hashtag when people, without setting up a system first for people who come forward to have to I'm just like watching people cut and bleed on the internet, and there's nobody there with a first aid kit, right? So no, I didn't start the hashtag, but I am grateful for it for sure. And I'm grateful that that we were able to connect it back to our work, which was started, I am a survivor, a multiple time survivor of sexual violence, like many people. And in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, I was privately struggling with coming to terms with that, right? I was still not even able to use words that other people use to describe them, right? I was just had a lot of challenges, and really I didn't even have words like survivor or healing. I didn't use those words at all to describe myself or what I was trying to get. I just wanted to feel differently. I wanted to feel better. I wanted to not have these flashbacks and these memories that would shut me down. And when I started working, this is a very short version, but when I started working with girls in the community in Selma, it became evident that they were dealing with the same things, right? Mm-hmm. So for all the positive stuff I did when I was a teenager, I also have these negative memories of being angry all the time. Mm-hmm. And actually, some of that organizing work was a place for me to put that anger somewhere, right? To put that fear.
Let me ask that question real quick. How old were you when the sexual violence happened to you?
The first time I was 6. So it started at 6 years old. So you're talking about, years and years and years and years and years of holding these feelings. And when you're that young and you know enough to keep it a secret, because there's something about the shame that we heap upon girls very early on, that we place we put the onus on girls really to protect themselves.
Yes.
So even though you'll hear all these girls, and I know boys get some degree of it, but mostly it's girls. It's 99% of the time we tell our little girls, you cross your legs, don't sit on nobody's lap. Don't put some clothes on, right? When a man comes, you could be fully dressed, and an adult woman will deem what you have on inappropriate in some way, and then you got to go run and put some clothes on. So you get these messages early on as a little girl that there's something wrong with nakedness in your body, and there's something wrong about men and women. Like there's something, but they don't balance that with what's right a lot of times, right? Especially another generation of our parents, right? I think parents are doing a much better job of it now. So as a little kid, when somebody violates you and violates your body, that's wrong because you heard these messages, but you don't know that you're not responsible.
Yeah.
And so if you think that you are complicit in your own abuse, then your first inclination is to hide it, right? When you think about little kids who spill something on, when they're little, oh my God, I spilled something on the blanket, or I wet the bed or whatever, they try to hide it because they don't want to get in trouble. And so then I grew up like many, many, many people who experience child sexual abuse. You grow up with this notion that you did something wrong and you're not a good person. So I just want to be a good person in the world and put that behind me. That manifested into anger eventually.
what you just said reminded me of Chimamanda Adichie's quote. We teach girls shame.
Mm-hmm.
Close your legs,
Yeah.
cover yourself. We make them feel as though being born female, they're already guilty of something.
That's right.
And so girls grow up to be women who silence themselves.
Right.
They grow up to be women who cannot say what they truly think. And they grow up, and this is the worst thing we do to girls. They grow up to be women who have turned pretense into an art form.
Oh, I have not heard that quote, but it is so dead on. It is so dead on. That's exactly what I'm saying, right? It's ingrained into your, almost into your body, right? That this is, you should be ashamed that somebody else did something to you. And then you have parents who will, particularly in Black communities, you'll have parents who'll be like, if somebody touch you, you tell me, because I'm gonna kill him. Right?
Which then puts the onus on you.
Exactly. Now I'm responsible, but
if somebody
dies.
Yes.
You know? In my case, I knew already about the idea of consequences. I knew about jail. And I had an opportunity right after it happened to tell my stepfather, who was this hulking 6'3", gruff, West Indian man who I knew had a pistol, who referenced it all the time. Don't make me get my pistol, So I had a choice of, I didn't fear not being believed. I feared getting in trouble and getting somebody killed. And then my father going to jail. And it would all be my fault.
And it would just be this rolling consequence. Yeah. So he said, the best thing I can do is just be quiet.
Just be quiet and be quiet and be better. And so I made a mistake. I'm a bad girl. I just got to be better. This is 6. Imagine holding that at 6 or 7 years old. It's just, and there's so many of us, Yeah.
You brought this up. Actually, let's drill into that a little bit more, because that is real. And I never thought about the idea that we have 2 choices: is tell and you're not believed, tell and somebody gets hurt and you take it on. For you at 6, and just looking back, how would you, what would the thing that you would have wanted to hear that would have told you it's okay for you to say something, we need you to say something? What is the thing that would also take the responsibility off your back?
I think that if I had heard prior to it happening, if anybody, like those same rules, right? But if anybody was to ever touch you or bother you, it's not your fault. Just come and tell mommy, come and tell daddy, and we'll take care of it. Not, we're going to kill them, we're going whatever. Right. But we're always, it's like home base. You can always come back here because it's always safe here, right? I felt the sense of safety in my home, but it was a safety that was wrapped in fear, right? So there's a fear that you're going to get a beating, you're going to get whooping because you did something wrong. There's a fear that somebody's going to die. There's a fear that you're going to get in trouble. There's a fear you're going to get, it's all of this fear that eventually that made it safe, so to speak, but not safe in a way that would allow me to feel like I can say. And I was very much allowed to speak my mind as a child.
Right.
But even that was kind of curated, and you get a sense of what you can and can't say. Like, I couldn't tell my mother she was lying. When you're a little kid and you hear your parent tell a fib about something, like, oh yeah, I bought that yesterday. And you're like, no, you didn't.
Sorry, but what?
You ain't buy that.
You ain't buy that. I was that kid too. Mini Tarana and Mini Luvvie would have been terrible together, because I was that kid too, who's like, but I saw you. That's not what happened.
I saw that, but you knew better than to say that, because so there's it's something that what I would have needed was a different upbringing, really, up until that point around those kind of things. And I think when I talk to parents about their children and safety, these are the things that I try to impress upon them. You have to have open communication. We know that. We hear that all the time. But it's the quality of the communication. It's not just openness for the sake. Some parents are real raw and they talk about sex and da-da-da-da-da with their kids. That's a choice. I'm not here to say, because I'm really open with my child, right? But also I remember with Kaya, I would say, I was such a crazy parent too, because I was so busy trying to get it right. But let's say I would yell at them, right? My child uses they, them pronouns. And I would yell at them, and then I would say, I'm sorry for yelling at you. I was yelling at you out of anger. And then Kanye would say, oh, it's okay, mommy. And I would say, okay, I know you said it's okay, but I also want you to know that it's not okay for somebody to harm you and then apologize. If you don't feel good about that, my poor baby would be like,
she'd be like,
I thought
I said
it's okay. Like, we crack up laughing now because Kaya's like, I would have much rather gotten a spanking when I was little than all that damn talking.
All that talking. She was like, man, I get it. All the feelings. That's amazing.
I was doing the most, but anyway.
But that's because you were trying your best to raise a healthy child who grew up to be somebody who could tell you, hey, mom, I go by they and them now.
Yeah.
And you honor that.
Yeah.
That's the type of safety that people don't have. Yeah. People do not have that type of safe space. Y'all, it's Fear Fighter February. And our mission, my mission, is to empower 1 million people to fight their fear in order to achieve their wildest dreams. So during the month of February, we're inviting you to join me and the rest of Love Nation for the Fear Fighter Challenge. Each day in February, when you sign up for the daily emails at fearfighterchallenge.com, you will get a call to action that will help you fight fear that day. Simple things that can get you closer to being audacious. And you don't have to do this alone. Join us each day in lovenation.com, my online community and app, which downloaded in your phone is free, where you can link up with other fear fighters to gas each other up, y'all. Come on. So you sign up at fearfighterchallenge.com. So when you started Me Too, and thank God you had receipts.
Thank God, right?
You've had photos from rallies. What year was that photo that's been going around where you're holding the pink Me Too sign? What year?
I have the shirt on that says Me Too. That's 2013 or 2014, I think.
2013.
Yeah, somewhere in there, in Philadelphia, because that's in Philadelphia. And there's also another picture. I'm at this table with a bunch of Me Too shirts. That one is from 2006. So 2006.
Wow.
So wow. Yeah, we've been at it for a long time. And you remember, you were part of that crew that I initially called that day, like, hey y'all.
And we said, say less. So what happened? I remember that day. I remember that day so much because so me and Tarana have been a part of a crew of dope women who just are each other's support, who just tell each other stories, who are all amazing as writers, as just Black women showing up in this world and who are seen as leaders for years. At this point, I can't remember how many years it's been.
It's a minute.
It's been a minute. And I remember that day you came in and you were like, y'all, what's happening on Twitter right now? Alyssa Milano tweeted Me Too, and talking about sexual violence. And now everyone is talking about Me Too, but our work is being lost in it. We was like, what? No. And all you need is Black women to hold hype.
Listen, activate the thread. There was the level of activation that took place that day. And this is the thing, to your point about having all these different lives before that moment. From every area of my life, Black women stood up and were like, oh, not today. I don't know that a human being could feel more enveloped in love than I did in those first few days. It was, you try to be a good person in the world, you try to do right by people, we fail sometimes, but for the most part, just like, that's just kind of like live on an up and up, right? Yeah. And not for anything in return necessarily, but just because that's what feels good to do. And on those first couple of days, particularly that first day, our crew was like, okay, that thread is still there, right?
That thread is still there.
It's like, okay, first of all, I remember Patrice saying, we're going to ride the wave, right? Ride the wave, calm down. And, Luvvie goes, for those who don't know by now, Luvvie goes into strategic mode whenever there's an issue. All right, first, boom, this is what we're going to do. 1, 2, we're going to get everybody that that's going to tweet about it. We're going to repost, so the women just started converging and planning. And, on the opposite end, I had Yaba and my other crew of girlfriends who were like, girl, you got receipts. I don't understand. You've been hollering about Me Too forever. Just
forever.
And I went in my phone. I'm like, this is the grace of God, because I went in my phone, that I had just got my new iPhone. And you know how sometimes all your stuff doesn't transfer?
Yeah.
I go into the phone and flip back, and my 2013, whatever that year was, with the one that you're talking about, that rally, I had a video from that rally in my phone.
In your phone.
I was like, okay, God.
Okay.
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 You know, and then I posted that video on Facebook and Instagram. No, I didn't even think I had, maybe
Twitter.
I had Twitter. And I think Instagram. Yeah, I posted wherever I had a social media. And I was a terrible social media person at the time. Like, I still am pretty terrible. And folks just went at it. And the other beautiful thing about that was it wasn't just people in my crew. My crew activated their crews. And as Black women in general kind of got a sense of what was happening, they were like, wait, no. What? Poor Alyssa, she DM'd me the next day. Hi, I just wanted to say hi.
She got the wrath of a million Black women.
Black women were like,
excuse me. We was like,
Yeah, you got that name wrong.
Yeah. No. That belongs to her. And it was such an important thing to even watch, because oftentimes our voices are drowned out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But it reminded me that we have such strength in numbers.
Yeah.
Our voices will not be drowned out when we all come together on one thing.
That's right. When we make up our mind, I mean, it's exactly what we saw with the survivors, right? It was there had been other hashtags. I immediately thought about the why I stayed. Remember that hashtag?
Yeah, why I stayed.
It had gone viral when the football player was caught on video hitting his wife. And I forget the sister's name. She does work around domestic violence, but she started that hashtag. And I remember it was such an amazing thing to watch and to see people coming forward. And it made a really big impact, right? Mm-hmm. But maybe a year later, we weren't, domestic violence didn't all of a sudden become the order of the day, and we didn't have all these people and like people in sport. We didn't have the same impact. So I did not expect for Me Too to have staying power, right? Because my experience is people don't want to talk about sexual violence in this country.
They don't. For that, what year was this, by the way? Was this 2018?
2017.
Mm-hmm. So that was 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I remember just sliding into your DMs and being like, what you need? Like, is this getting overwhelming for you? Because I started seeing everybody pulling at you, because all of a sudden Me Too became the thing to attach themselves to. Like, okay, I too know Tarana. Oh my God, we also want to feature Tarana. Oh my God, we love Tarana Burke. And I was seeing all of that coming at you. How was that, especially in those first few months?
Oh God, those first few months. It's funny, I literally just wrote about this. Those first few months were incredibly overwhelming. I was going through trying to ground myself in like, Tarana, take this moment, get the message out, talk about sexual violence, talk about this, and go back into your cocoon, right? Like, don't get caught up in this hype. Yeah. And I was on that wave for a minute, and then in November, it's very interesting because I think we talked this day too. In November, the Time magazine released their nominations for Person of the Year. Yes. And Me Too was in it. And so everybody oh my God. And I was like, but that don't mean me. I still don't know that the world will acknowledge that the movement that is Me Too is my brainchild, right? So I was just like, Time Person of the Year, ain't no way in the world Time magazine is associating me with this. Not gonna happen. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, this is gonna be the start of the like, let me just take my seat, you know? And it was hard for me because I had just in May or June of that year, I had joined this collective of organizers who organize around child sexual abuse and sexual violence. And we had, they were another big support group for me. And this was like, Aisha Shahida Simmons and Luz Marquez, and like these folks who had been in this work for years and years and years. And I was so excited to be in community with them. And I was sharing with them all these plans I had for Me Too the following, like fall and spring. And so when when all of the hype happened, I was like, I'm never going to be able to do my work under this moniker again because nobody's going to believe that a 44-year-old Black woman from the Bronx started this in this way. You know, the story will get convoluted over time and it'll be like, oh, you're just trying to ride on the wave. And I'm like, no, I started the wave, you know?
Started the wave. The wave was yours.
Yeah, but it didn't, and I really do, when I say the grace of God, I really mean that because I feel like sometimes a thing has its time, you know? And I think there's no real reason that I should have been, according to the laws of what we've seen in Hollywood and pop culture and all the rest of that, there's no real reason why I should have been elevated to prominence in this moment. None.
God's grace.
It's nothing but God's grace because I could have easily been like, oh yeah, that's great. She started that in 2006, but now it's the da-da-da-da-da, right? They could have easily done that. I think that when a moment has come, it has come. And not just for me personally. I mean, the moment to put sexual violence at the forefront. And I think that also, and this is, I don't mean to say this to be controversial at all, but I think that the field of people who are doing the work around sexual violence also needed a shakeup.
Yes.
You know, it also needed a like, listen, there's more that can happen here. Survivors have to be at the forefront. We have to listen to the people who experience this. This is if we can talk about gun violence and police violence and climate justice and all of these other things, this is also a social justice issue that needs its moment. And so I think that would have happened with or without me. I'm just grateful that I was able to be in there. And I think what my role has been since Me Too and Viral is to try to keep, I don't want to say moral compass, it's like to keep it centered on what's most important. Yeah. You know, the hashtag is not what's most important because the people who put the hashtag up are most important. Every hashtag is a human being. And we tend to forget that when we just see it over and over and over and over again. Every time you see somebody put hashtag Me Too, there's a human being behind a keyboard who made a decision to put out into the world some of the darkest things they've ever experienced. And we have a responsibility to meet them at that place and say, what do you need? From here out, what do you need? You've done this hard work. This is the labor. That's all you have to do. How can I come in and help support you moving forward? That's our job. That's my job.
I think, God's grace, Black women's loudness and refusal to let your name be erased. And just the fact that this was destined somewhere because, like you said, the fact that this has been 4 years and you still retain your prominence is significant and extraordinary. And I should have remembered it was 2017 because one of the things that I did with my TED Talk the night before I did the TED Talk is I scrapped half of it and I rewrote it and I made sure to invoke your name in there. Yeah. Because I wanted to also make sure for somebody who was listening, who has heard it, and it was very relevant to what I was saying because your courage in coming out and being vulnerable about your sexual assault experiences and this really deeply traumatic thing, for me, I'm like, that's what it looks like to be the domino. So it was important for me to invoke your name. And it's funny, one of my one of the members of my team actually said, I didn't realize Tarana was behind Me Too until I heard your TED Talk. A lot of people didn't. So you said that in the TED Talk, and then the people from TED called me. That's how there's another lesson in here about, there's something else I've heard you say before about who you bring in the room with you. Yes. And that is, you definitely, I just appreciate you without getting mushy. And I have a tendency in my old age to just, there's nothing wrong with being mushy. Listen, I'm mushy. I be crying at Cheerios commercials. It's just, I don't understand. I'm losing my toughness, but I do appreciate that. The one thing that I know, and I've said this to people without you even being in the space, is that the thing I know about Luvvie Ajayi Jones is that if she thinks that you are ready, right? Because I think this is another point that people miss. It's not just bring everybody in the room. Because sometimes you bring a person in the room and they'll embarrass you. Correct. And you be looking around like, what? I bring this fool in this room. Why? Right?
but there's so many people that we're surrounded by. There's so many people in our ecosystem and in our small little universes that we are watching. We're watching them hustle. We're watching them struggle. We're watching them, but they are buttoned up and they are ready, and they just need somebody to invoke their name in the right moment. They need somebody to hold a door open and say, listen, I've been in here. I think you belong in here too. And I've seen you do that over and over and over again. You've certainly done it for me. The amount of times I've called you and be like, hey, Luvvie, should I use this one or that one? You know, and you're always like, oh yeah, use this one, and we keep it moving, you know? And it's not, we're not like gab on the phones on Gossip girlfriends, right? But we are certainly support system. Like, I count you in my support system. I hope you count me in the same way.
Absolutely.
And it's yeah, that was another one of those like moments. It's just, wow. And you have to, this is why I always wonder why people talk about Black women not supporting each other and Black people not.
I don't understand it.
Who do y'all need to change crews? That's not my experience. It's not my experience.
I don't understand it. I can't relate. I cannot relate when people say like, I'm like, listen, literally, like, I will text Ron on some like, okay, I want to do this thing. She'll be like, all right, bet. Like, just being able to know that the village is just a text message away.
Just there. I write this all the time. Black women save my life on a regular basis.
Facts.
Regular basis, from the elders in my life who pull my coat and be like, now listen. I've had elders who see me on TV and be like, don't wear that shirt no more and change that lipstick. You know, elders, they don't care. They're like,
they ain't got no shit. You know, they ain't got no type of coup.
They'll also call me and say, you know, I'm just so proud of you. I just want you to hold that, you know, and the girlfriends who you can call and cry with and laugh with and gripe with, you know, I would not be here as, you know, Tarana Burke, blah, 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 but I wouldn't be here on this earth without the love, support, and like encouragement, upliftment of Black women. I just wouldn't. Really? And Black men ain't and Black men are right behind them, right? Like one of the most painful things about this experience over the last 4 years has been this notion somehow that I don't love Black men or that I don't support Black men. Oh yeah. Because our community is not ready to deal with sexual violence, really. And it's gonna take, and because our community has a very painful history with sexual violence. So I don't want to just say it's like, oh, Black people just won't deal with it. It's just like any other trauma. Our community has been traumatized by sexual violence from the days of enslavement. And so it's really difficult. It's like an onion. It's many, many layers. And what happens a lot of time when you bring up something that's painful, when you bring up memories of pain, people lash out. And so there's this, every time I bring up something around Black survivors that comes out, we just put out something around Black survivors. And I got all of these, you know, folks on my social media, why do you hate Black men so much? I'm like, wow, could not be further from the truth.
That's crazy. And actually that brings me to so you've become besties with like some of Hollywood's finest. You have access in ways that's crazy. Yeah. What are the tough parts of this prominence? You know, you and I talk about it often.
Yeah. I mean, that whole part about the funny thing about becoming friends with folks who, you know, the actresses and the people who are prominent is that they're human beings too. And they're very much human, literally just like us, not, you know, and meaning that the same kind of struggles, the same kind of insecurities. And I think some of those friendships forge because they need to be connected to people outside of those spaces that are willing to talk openly about these challenges, right? Some of the challenges for me obviously have been dealing with the hatred and the violence and the vitriol. It was very scary. You know, it's died down now more so than it was in like 2018 was really bad. But yeah, getting death threats. We had to move at one point because when Me Too first went viral, I just, you know, I lived in Harlem. I wasn't trying to hide. And it was a really, and people could look up my address, and they did. And they came to my house and they sent packages, and it was like, okay, yeah, we got to go. So we had to move from an apartment that I really loved. So that kind of stuff was hard, but it's also hard, like being misunderstood. I know you get this. You have to fight the urge to be like, that's not what I
meant. that's not who I am.
Me, I have people in my team all the time to be like, just let it go. And some of it is also you wouldn't say this shit to my face. Like some of it, I'll just be looking at these trolls like, can you just meet me on the corner of 125th and let's
go.
So let's chat, let's rapid taste in person, because you wouldn't say none of this shit to my face. You talking all this good shit on the internet. I'm not an internet. I don't do Twitter beef. I don't do none of that.
Keyboard thugs.
Yeah, I don't do that's not who I am. So, I even fighting that urge to be like, fuck all of y'all. Fuck yeah, I can't do that.
Don't get the Me Too twisted. Don't get the Tarana Burke on the TED stage
twisted. Don't do that. Because I'm going to tell you all of that. Like my daughter always says, Mommy, my mother would throw it all away. Like, I'd be ready to throw it all away. But it's not. I also realize that if I was to throw this all away for those idiot people, I would be the idiot, right? It's like the Jay-Z verse when he was like, "Don't argue with fools, because from a distance people can't tell who's who."
Yeah.
So I swallow a lot of stuff, and I also feel I feel sad. This is going to sound, after what I just said, I do want to punch people in the face sometimes, but I also feel really sad for people whose existence is bolstered by like bullying people on the internet or who are willfully ignorant, right? You are mad at me because I want to call attention to something that is ruining our community. And you want to, and is ravaging our community. And the thing is, you want to die on this hill about somebody like R. Kelly, right? Or somebody like Bill Cosby, who wouldn't piss on you if he was on fire, right? Like this is the part that really bothers me. It's not about the celebrities. Because for every R. Kelly, Russell Simmons, T.I. and Tiny, whoever the heck it is, there's somebody who doesn't have that label in our community doing the same thing to our children, to our aunts and our sisters and our cousins and our little brothers. And we have to at some point take a step back and examine what's happening in our community, away from all of the celebrity and this and that, and away from that, and say, none of that stuff actually matters, except that if we don't address it, that it gives permission for the people who we don't know to keep doing what they're doing. And that's it. But it's challenging to get some of these messages across. And I'm not, by far the only one. It's so many, lots of Black women mostly who are ringing the alarm. We've been ringing the alarm before Me Too, before Me Too went viral. Before all of that, we've been bringing this every single time there's another celebrity, somebody in the news. You got the same group of Black feminist women who come forward and say, hey, y'all, this is a problem. And then there's always the debate. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the messages we give girls at an early age. Yeah. You want to debate whether these girls are fast or not because somebody put this notion of fast in our minds back when we were 3 and 4 and 5 years old, 6 years old, just doing cheerleading dances and stuff. And somebody said, stop acting all fast.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
It's an interesting world. But honestly, like, I think being able to have a crew of folks where you can exchange war stories.
Yeah.
Because nobody gives a manual for prominence. How do you handle when the world stops seeing you as the underdog? How do you handle when the thing that is your purpose now gets you a lot of attention when you weren't necessarily seeking the attention? Because some people are seeking the attention. Oh, yeah. But for those who are just head down trying to do the work, who find themselves on massive stages, we do need a thrust into it.
About that a lot because it's a very small sorority too, right? It's not like it happens all the time, but thank God that Patrice and Alicia had this experience from Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Beforehand, Patrice and Alicia in particular have been such friends to me and such have provided so much guidance because they had a very similar experience, right?
Yeah.
Thrown into prominence, just trying to help your community, just trying to be a voice for your community. And all of a sudden it becomes a thing. And I think for Black folks, we're definitely not used to it because we're not used to people listening to us in that way, you know? And so there needs to be a manual because why do I need a PR person and a manager and a this and a that? It feels pretentious and it feels like, wait, I'm supposed to be in the movement. But also who's going to answer these calls? And also who is going to like help me guide my way through? I need a tax attorney? Like, you know, you're like, what? Right. What is happening? You know, it is. And I had quite a few people from different walks of life, you know, folks like Mark Lamont Hill. Like he wasn't necessarily thrust to prominence, but he's a professor and an academic and a regular dude who became, you know, was put on CNN and all the rest of the shows and then became prominent. So folks like that, or even Ava, I knew Ava DuVernay before all of this because of when she was starting out as a director. I was running a Black arts organization and we connected through that. And then I was a consultant on Selma when she did the movie.
Yes.
And so, so we was cool for a while. Similar to you, Ava's another one who will be like, hey, sis, let me holler at you. You know, let me just, is this going all right? You know, and shout out to the Black women who are not afraid to, like, she would talk numbers, you know, and be straight up and down. Do you have a lawyer? Do you have this and that? You know, I told a story in my book about, it was Ava on the red carpet. I don't even know if I've ever talked to her about this, but when I went to the Golden Globes, as shiny and as fancy and as whatever that was, it was all Black women who got me through that. This is how I'm telling you about the regularness of these actresses.
Yes.
Gabrielle Union was the first one I reached out to, like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And she was like, say less. She activated a whole network of folks in Hollywood, all Black women, who, because she wasn't going to be there that weekend, that all converged to make sure that everything down to my nails were done. Because I'm telling you, they was not. And then on the red carpet, I was struggling because my feet were hurting. It was hot. I was, you know, everybody, you have to become, those women, all of them, all of the women that you see, I just bow down to y'all because holding that all together, walking in 4-inch heels, talking to different people, stopping every 2 seconds, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
And by the time I got almost to the end of the carpet, my feet felt like I wanted to saw them off at the ankle. Okay. And Ava saw me, I'm gonna talk about little tears was forming in the side, and Ava saw me and she pulled me to the side and got your girl together. She was like, all right, you only got literally 10 more minutes. Just pull a hold of it. 10 more. I wanted to, if I didn't think I was gonna get makeup on her dress, I probably put my head on her shoulder like
and cry.
I don't want to do this no more. I'm telling you that, you know, it's harder than it looks.
No, for real. But again, one of my favorite prayers is let my helpers find me. Yes. Your helpers keep finding you.
Absolutely.
Moments when you need it. And like, you've showed up for me also in so many ways. And I remember even texting you about share the mic now. I was like, we're doing this random thing. And you was like, and then you was like, I'll get details later, basically. On some like, you said yes first and you were like, I'll just figure it out later.
It's also about trust, you know?
Yeah.
When you create a circle of trust, I know you ain't gonna have me nothing crazy. You know, exactly. You're not gonna pull me into something. I'll be like, Luvvie, why am I here?
Yo, I was just like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I say Black women are my Patronus. Black women are like my magical star.
Yes.
Like Black women are my favorites, just across the board. We just show up in ways that's just so dope. Yeah. And I'm just like, as long as I have a crew of Black women, I'm good.
And my crew has now expanded to have non-Black women in it. And I have,
yes.
And it has been a very interesting evolution. I'm telling you that, I mean, you know, that's my core. I stick with my folks, but But it has also been really interesting and nice. I've learned so much because we have also had to be guarded, right? In our interactions with non-Black people. And I've had experiences in the last few years where I've had to depend on white women. And quite frankly, right? And have been not just pleasantly surprised, but also have learned some lessons about life. And it's the kind of messed up, one of the messed up things, not just kind of, but one of the terrible things about racism and living in a country that's plagued with racism and white supremacy is that distrust that we have to have for our own well-being and like, you know, to live, you have to have your guard up. You can't be vulnerable like that. It robs us of relationships and it robs us of experiences that could be life affirming. And you know, I've had to let my guard down in some ways. And I'm just like, oh, okay.
That's what, and you know what? And let me tell you, when we were matching up everybody for Share the Mic Now.
You remember what I said, right?
Listen, I remember what you said. And I said, got you. And first of all, the matching process was like an art. And I'm actually really proud of how we matched everybody because a lot of people who did Share the Mic Now are now really good friends with their partners. Like really good friends. I'm talking, some of them are like, yeah, we talk every day. We FaceTime every day now. I'm like, that makes my whole heart good. And why I was like, you got to be matched with Glennon is because I wanted you to be matched with a real one who you can be in actual community with.
Yeah.
Because to your point of, yes, Black women are who I depend on, but there's a challenge of opening up the sisterhood to other people, but we have to still be very selective.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, whoever we get to Tarana, gotta be somebody who I can trust with Tarana. And that's why I was like, yeah, Glennon.
No,
Glennon was the only option, or Brene.
That was it for me. I was like, listen.
This is and I was like, Glennon, easily. No. And when and we were like, Glennon, as we were doing the matches, we didn't match each other. Like we didn't match ourselves.
Right.
So I literally was like, y'all tell me who I should have. Glennon was like, you tell me who. I didn't tell her who I was gonna match her with. And then when I was like, Tarana, she was like, oh my God, I was hoping you said that. Oh my God, I love her so much. Literally, like Glennon's on the Zoom, like, oh my God, I was hoping you said that. Oh my God, I'm obsessed. Thank you so much. Like,
no,
she like geeked out.
Yo, Glennon and Abby are, you know, Yaba got Abby, so that was perfect.
Glennon, also, again, planned. I was like, let's just give, because that makes sense.
We are a coven now, right? Like we have our little coven meetings. Glennon and Abby are literally the truth. I love them and have had such a good experience. And that was such a, you know, of course we knew of each other, but hadn't had any time to connect. But, you know, Abby got us running around talking about, I'm the wolf. And we can do hard things, you know, like it's a beautiful thing. And I really appreciate it. And that's an example, right? Of like people in the tribe that I would not have imagined that 5 years ago. And, you know, Brene's another one. That's just, to be like, to say this is my sister about a white woman. I've not had that experience. And I mean that from every part of I mean that 100%, right? Like,
same.
And I had admired and really, not just admired, loved her work prior to, but when I came to her about this book, it was, I mean, again, I knew we was close. We talked. Brene actually was my space. We were each other's space to not talk about work. We very rarely got on the phone. It was like, you know, shame and vulnerability. I was thinking about this today. That wasn't our thing. It was like, girl, did you see this wallpaper? Because we were both doing stuff in our homes at the same time. So we'd be on the phone talking about wallpaper and paint and this and that and whatever. George Floyd was murdered last summer, and then Breonna Taylor happened, you know, around the same time. Just like everybody else, I was so blown. And so, you know, it's kind of like you get weary too, right? We haven't actually gotten over Trayvon Martin. We haven't actually gotten over all of these different murders that we've seen and all the impunity that we've seen. And so when this happened, it was just like a tiredness I felt, really, just so weary. But then there was this flood online, and I know you got it too. all of these Black leader, influencer, public figure type folks, we got this wave of white people following us.
Yes.
And all of these, like, I would get messages every day. Follow Tarana Burke for more, da 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 da.
Yes.
You know, and oh my God.
We was all tagged to the same
stories, right? It's like people like, this is the list of the Black people to follow on Instagram. And I get it. A lot of us were posting out of, we don't have anything else to do, right? All I can do is put this information out, express myself in ways that make me feel a little more seen or heard. I wasn't trying to educate or teach. I was just trying to release. And I was glad that some people picked up what they needed in the process, right? I wasn't also trying to not teach. I just wanted to put information out. But what started growing on me was this idea that it became anti-racism became the order of the day. So all of the books about anti-racism shot up on the Times bestseller list, and all of the, there was all these new people who hadn't talked about race before on their Instagram that suddenly have become experts in race and anti-racism, right? And got, all of these hundreds of thousands of followers. And I'm watching all of this happen. And what I'm seeing very little of is space for Black people to process. So we are the community under attack. We are the community that has to watch people that look like us be murdered over and over again in the public sphere. Have those videos go viral. Have people at our jobs ask, are you okay? Oh my God, I saw the George Floyd thing. And act like it's our cousin as opposed to our community member, a citizen of this country that we all should feel equally pained about, right? We are the ones who have to endure that. And it brings up memories of our own endurance and our own, experiences. And where do we process that? And so I love Brené's work, and her work has informed a lot of my work, and it validated a lot of my work. And I kept thinking, the thing about her work that I love is that is so, to me, it's so valuable to dealing with a lot of the Black experience around shame and really shame resilience, except that it's not often presented in a way that Black people will see themselves in it. And, and so if we don't see ourselves, then we won't realize that this is also a tool for us to use. And I had never had that conversation because I didn't want to I couldn't figure out how to say it I didn't want to offend her and make her think that I was saying anything sinister about her, because I think the work is fine. And I know that she tries. I know that her, in her best effort, she is trying to make sure that she is incredibly inclusive and her samples are diversified and all the rest of that. And so I was like, Brené, would you ever want to write a book with me about? She's like, absolutely.
Say less, fam.
I was like, okay, about the Black experience and da da da. She was like, absolutely. And then we talked about, she talked to me candidly about her own struggles around that, and that being a blind spot for her, and her trying to remedy that and the things that she had been doing, and that this would be just a great opportunity to do that. And I was like, yeah. And the rest was history. I started, you actually were one of the first people I told before we even had paperwork signed. And Luvvie was like, oh, word? You talk about say less.
Listen, I said, put me in the game, coach. Because I told you, I was like, I just finished my book and it's talking about fear and resilience and vulnerability. And you were like, oh, shoot. Sure enough, a month later,
that's what we are.
You sent me a text like, here we are, we moving forward. I was like, it was like the perfect full circle moment, because Brené is somebody who I've looked up to for a long time. In my therapy sessions with my late therapist, she would be assigning me homework to go watch Brené's videos.
Yes.
So when my therapist died last month, I messaged Brené and I said, I just wanted to say, I know you hear this 1,000 times, but your work matters so much. My therapist that just passed, she loved you.
Yeah.
Like, used to send me homework, like, go watch this Brené Brown video on empathy. Go watch this Brené Brown video on grieving, what that means. And she replied back, and I was just like, yo. And then to have you be at the forefront of this, I was like, put me in what do I have to do? I will figure it out.
Listen, it was and that was the response from people across the board. I mean, this book could be 5 volumes with the number of people that I really wanted to have in here. And it's hard decisions. It came down to really hard decisions, but we really wanted to have a well-rounded representation of Blackness, first of all, right? And there's some folks in Brené's life, Black women, and a couple of men who she had been working with and who know her work and had the same sentiments that I did. And, we even have an essay in the book, this woman, Jessica, who was her last name, Williams? Williams. Jessica Williams. Sorry, Jessica. The sister who not confronted, that sounds too confrontational, but she tweeted at Brené on Twitter and said, I would love to have a public conversation with Brené about Blackness and vulnerability because, we come at this differently. And Brené responded to her. And they had this, exchange. And so when we started pulling the list together, she was like, yeah, I want her in the book, right? I want the people who have challenged me on this to have this discussion, to talk about it openly. So we talk about everything from the world of academia to parenting, to health, to mental health, to relationships, it's so beautiful. Jason Reynolds has this essay, just cracks me open. I don't want to just keep talking about pulling individual people out, but it's so good. And I'm saying that because I'm not as the editor, but as a reader. As a person who's reading it's so good. I'm so excited for people to read it. And I look at it, both of us, as an offering, right? Yeah. This is an offering. I want to create a soft place to land for Black folks. Soft place to land. And so y'all, it's called You Are Your Best Yes. Thing. And what made y'all call it that? Child, the title is the Mother story. Mother Tony. We actually had another title. True story. We had another title. And and thank God for your Black scholarly friends, because it was a quote from a Zora Neale Hurston book that we thought was a quote. And the quote was actually wrong. And so we were like, ooh, we cannot put that out in the world. Even though it was very, very close, it's like, you don't want to mess with Mama Zora either. Mother Zora, okay, the answer. Right, I'm not trying to do that. And so we scrapped that. And true story, we had already, obviously from before, we had come up with all these different titles. We got on the phone and Brené does this thing that I love. She's like, all right, 10 minutes, let's go. We're going to come up with a title. And I had written down, I pulled up the list from before, and it was the first one on there. Obviously, like many other people, I love Toni Morrison so much. And Beloved is one of my favorite books. I've read it probably 4 times, starting at 12 years old when I didn't understand it. And that scene in the book is Paul D talking to Thebes and says, you are your best thing. It's such a deep encouragement, an affirmation, a declaration. And this book is really about Black humanity. It is really about people. I said this in the intro, but I really mean it. If you cannot engage with Black humanity, then I don't believe your anti-racism work. It invalidates it to me. It's just a study of something, like you study anything else. But in order to really be anti-racist, you have to engage with Black humanity. And that's really what this book is about. And You Are Your Best Thing it just was, as soon as we said it out loud, we were like, that's it. Oh, and let me tell you, Toyin, OG Oduotola. My God. That painting is gorgeous. Talk about a Black woman saving the day again. That sister came in, and I just adore her. I didn't know her well. I wish that it's not up because I'm having it framed. My first fine art piece is one of her pieces. I hunted down and found this piece she did in 2012, and I was able to buy it. And I reached out to her to tell her that I purchased it because she was trying to help me at first. And so the only exchange we ever had was about framing the piece and my thanking her for just being such an amazing artist. And so I reached out to her when we had another piece that we couldn't use. And I said, sis, this is where we are. I really want a beautiful piece of Black art on this cover. And I showed her the picture. I found it online. And again, talk about the grace of God. Things just fall into place when they're meant to be. I always say, what's meant to happen will happen. She was like, I have that. Not only is that piece of, like, you can use it, but I have it in my archives, blah, blah, blah. And it just all fell together just like that. And so, yeah, the cover just came today. I just got the cover in the mail today. I'm so excited.
I want that as a print.
Yes.
Is she offering it as a print?
I don't know, but I don't know. We can figure that out because it is
I want
so
that as a print.
gorgeous.
Like, it's stunning. Yeah. It's stunning. But y'all, I need you to go pre-order the anthology. Yeah. You Are Your Best Thing. I have an essay in there. Jason Reynolds, Kia Maria,
Kiese Lemon, Imani Perry, Mark Lamont Hill, my daughter.
Your daughter, yes. Kaya's in there.
Is
published
in
author.
The book and that was one of the other things that I love, that we have a range of people in different walks of life. Some people are very well-known, best-selling authors, namely yourself, and others, Amen. This is their first published work. It's a beautiful range of everything, and I love it. And
they deserve the space.
Absolutely.
So, exciting. That is the third. So I have 3 books coming out this year.
It's crazy.
I'm in 3 books. The one that I wrote myself and 2 anthologies.
Wow.
February, March, April. There's a book with my name inside.
Come on, Luvvie. Come on, writer.
Look, come on. Okay, the writer's back.
Okay, I'm like, I just pressed send on my memoir yesterday. It is.
How you feel?
I don't know. People keep asking me that, and I'm like, I'm somewhere between. I was bawling when I pressed it. It was 2:00 in the morning, and I was just like, it feels like I finally crossed the finish line of the longest marathon. And then as soon as I did it, I was like, I done told all my business.
All your business. Listen. That means this book's about to be good. And thus actually really begins the work. You just sent the first draft. You've done the hardest part. Yeah. But it's now, editing. By the time draft 2, draft 3, this thing gonna sing.
Yeah, boy, I can't wait. I'm really excited. That'll be out in October.
Ooh, come on. Look at Jesus. Look at God doing all the work, getting all the stories out there. Amen. So as you're doing all this stuff, so what are you doing to take care of yourself? What is your self-care looking like?
I always love this question. I said the other night to a group of students, I was giving a talk, and I said, when people ask me this question, often I lie. Because it's the quickest and easiest way to say that in like 5 minutes. Like, I try to rest and relax, and I take some me time, and that's not true. It's not true. I'm terrible at self-care in this moment. And so what I have resolved is that I will, how you call it, you count it all joy. The times and moments that I'm able to indulge, I do.
Yeah.
My biggest form of self-care is boundaries. I will cut you out in a minute. I'm sorry, we can't. I try to keep people at bay that are either negative or, those ones who pretend to be positive, and you can feel the negative energy jumping off of them. Yeah. I don't have time or space for it. So that part I do try to, regularly practice my boundaries. And other than that, staying off the internet as much as possible.
Staying off the internet is a form of self-care.
It is.
Amen? Social
media is drained for me. I'm an extrovert introvert. I am an extrovert in moments. And I think it fools people. They're like, girl, we had a good time. I'm gonna call you. Don't call me.
Don't call me.
I ain't gonna I'm not gonna pick up the phone, right? So and making sure I'm surrounded. I talk to my friends as much as possible. My friends listen to this podcast like, she lying.
Listen, folks know your heart. They know your heart.
I try. This last month or so has been really hard because I was trying to get the book finished. But my friends really are my my self-care in a lot of ways. They take care of me, and I don't even deserve it a lot of times. You know, my Whitney Moreau, who has the
Whit. I love me some Whitney.
Don't you? She's just the best human being. Like, you know, we usually go on vacation every year, our little auntie tour. We haven't been able to travel.
The auntie tour. Listen, I'll be living for y'all auntie tour.
Yeah, we haven't been able to do any of that. And then, but you know, she will send me a little care package with some masks in it. And so, you know, my friends take care of me in ways that I don't even deserve. So they are part of my self-care. And I'm just trying. I'm trying to eat better, trying to exercise. I didn't buy a Peloton, but
oh, girl, we got one. We we fell into the.
But I bought a mirror.
Something got you. Yes.
I'm trying. I'm trying.
That's it. I think self-care is oftentimes creating strong boundaries.
It is,
and that's real, and that's valid.
And my partner,
I miss going to the spa.
Oh my gosh. I do.
I miss the spa.
I do. I miss that pampering. I was going to say my partner he's such a wonderful person. And also he's good for self-care, because if you tell him 2 or 3 things like, baby, remind me I need to do this. Yeah. He's going to, like a sergeant. Did you do it?
Have you done it?
Did you do it? Have you done it? Did you do it? I'm like, I could I could choke you, but I know you mean that. So that's been wonderful too. Like, you know, being able to not be in this moment alone is really great.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's amazing. So my final question for you is, what do you consider a professional troublemaker?
I think to make good trouble means that we know what's right and wrong in the world. We inherently know. And I think folks make choices to go one way or the other. But you have to be more than just an observer, right, of the world. You have to be more than just somebody who says, wow, that's bad or that's good. When you see something that is not right and not good, we have to be active and do something about it. We created a platform called Act 2, which is an accompaniment to our website. And part of the impetus for that is because we want to give people less excuses for not being active. You can do something. So there are those of us who just insert ourselves and try to do a little something. And then there are those who take that mantle and run with it. Those are the professionals. It's kind of like being a professional Black girl, right? Like you do this Black girl thing for a living. And I create good trouble for a living. And those people who think that it's trouble, though, are exactly the ones who I'm trying to transform, who need to hear a message, who need to see the activity and know you're calling this trouble, but it's not actually. This is life-affirming, life-changing, a necessity for us to live amongst each other, right? At the end of the day, is our humanity is our highest, it's the highest order. We should be doing things to make sure that we are able to live amongst each other with our dignity intact, with our humanity intact. And if it takes making some trouble, then I'll be a professional troublemaker because I think that's what's necessary. I want that for myself. Yes. I want it for my community. I want it for my family. I want it for my child. I want it for my neighbors. And when you look around and there's not enough people doing it, sometimes you got to make it your profession.
Come on. Sometimes you got to make it your profession and get paid to make good trouble. Okay. And that is what you're doing. I am always in your corner. And I am so honored to have you in my village of people who I can count on. And you're just amazing.
Same. Thank you, Luvvie. I appreciate you having me on. And I'll be back in October when I have another.
Come on. When this memoir drops, okay?
Come back now.
This New York Times bestselling memoir you're about to drop. I'm here for that.
Yes, we claim it.
It's done. It's done. Oh,
love
you, sis.
Too, love.
There's so many moments from this interview with Tarana that have me thinking. The fact that the greatest gift that her mother gave her was the gift of a yes. My year of fear fighting was a year filled with saying yes to myself. And that was such a life-changing year for me. And to have the chance to be that change maker for other people by giving the gift of yes, that's amazing. And talking through Tarana on how she navigates all this prominence, how she can show up and do her work, and keep a hold on her boundaries while still trying to disrupt for the greater good, it's a further lesson for me on how I can continue to do the same. because this world is so much better when it's safe and good for all of us, and that takes speaking up. So be sure to follow Tarana on social media. She's at Tarana Janeen on Instagram. That's TaranaJaneen on Instagram. And Tarana Burke on Twitter. And be sure to check out the new anthology that's on its way that she is collaborating with Brene Brown with, that I have an essay in, and it's called You Are Your Best Thing. It's dope. Go pre-order that. And much love to Chicago Recording Company, who I've been partnering with from the start of this podcast, and they've been helping make sure I'm bringing y'all as much of the radio voice as possible as I'm recording from home. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Professional Troublemaker podcast. If you loved what you heard, make sure you subscribe to Professional Troublemaker in your podcast platform of choice and share it with people. Let them know this is dope. Also, order my namesake book, Professional Troublemaker, the Fear Fighter Manual, anywhere that you buy books. I especially love when you buy it from independent bookstores. So go to professionaltroublemakerbook.com for more, because this book is game-changing, and I'd say that even if I wasn't the one who wrote it. And please make sure you rate this show and leave a comment with a 5-star review, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you choose to listen. Feel free to also share some insights and whatever connected with you on social media. And be sure to tag us. We are at Professional Troublemaker on Instagram. And me, I'm at Luvvie everywhere. Until next time, have the courage to speak your truth and show up as yourself. Create good trouble.